Okay, thanks. I do have a question about the forced deportations, but it's a little bit off the grid, so I'll do it at the very end on that.
It was on what deportation?
Well,
the forced deportation. Yeah.
The forced deportations and that being a crime. And I'm sure that other people will get back into Ukraine specifically in a second, but I just want to ask you, tangentially related to Ukraine, in terms of NATO expansion and the Turks. So it has not escaped anyone's notice that the Secretary has spoken 3 times in the last, 5 days?
Correct. 5 or 6. Yeah.
5 or 6 days with the new Turkish foreign minister. The President's spoken with Erdogan. They're expected to meet in Vilnius, I don't know, in the next couple hours or so. And there's this new Turkish, I don't know if I would call it a demand, but the suggestion that if the EU would pave the way for Turkish accession to the EU,
right,
then they would be more willing, or would be willing to, agree to Sweden getting into NATO. I realize the U.S. is not a member of the EU. You have no desire to be a member of the EU. Victoria Nuland expressed her feelings about the EU quite specifically not so long ago.
We're not a European country.
Maybe
it's kind of in the name, European Union.
But there are plenty of countries in NATO that are not on the Atlantic.
Fair.
Okay? So I'm just wondering, do you guys have a position on it? Is this something that you guys are okay with, even though you don't have a decision in it, or is it something that you just think is out of bounds, that the Turks are pulling out of their hats as a kind of a last minute thing?
Yeah, let me say a few things. Number one, the United States has, for a number of years, supported Turkey's EU aspirations, and we continue to do so. That said, as you point out, it is not a decision for the United States. It is a decision for the European Union, and ultimately that's a matter between the European Union and Turkey. However, we do not believe that it should be an impediment to Sweden's accession to NATO. As you pointed out, the Secretary has talked 3 times in the last 5 or 6 days to the Foreign Minister of Turkey, Foreign Minister Fidan. Talked to him this morning. He talked to him on Saturday. He talked to him last Wednesday. The President talked to President Erdogan yesterday. We continue to press the case that Sweden has taken a number of steps to address the concerns that Turkey raised, and we believe that it is time for Turkey to support Sweden's NATO accession.
So, in his conversations with the foreign minister, I won't ask you about the president's conversation with Erdogan, but has he made that point?
He has made that point.
And to put a really fine point on it, you're saying, yeah, we think you should be a member of the EU, but you shouldn't link your joining the EU to Sweden joining NATO. Is that correct?
I won't get that specific. I will say that...
Well, you kind of did before, but so that's why I just want to make sure I understand what the U.S. position is.
The U.S. position is very clear, as I just stated.
Well, it's not that clear. I'm asking you to make it clear. Is it your position that it's all well and good and you support Turkey getting into the EU, but you don't think the Turks should link their joining the EU to their dropping of their objections?
Correct. That is correct. We think that they are.
Can you put that in like
we think that they are separate issues, and we support Turkey's longtime aspirations to join the EU, but that is a separate question than the question about Sweden joining NATO, and we think it's time for Sweden to join NATO, and we hope Turkey will support them, and the Secretary has made that clear in his conversations with Foreign Minister Fidan.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Matt. To follow up on Matt's question, did the EU topic come up in his conversations with Fidan? Did they give a heads up that Erdogan was going to be raising this today? And then just on the F-16 issue, what is the Secretary able to say in terms of how much push has been given to Congress to approve those jets to Turkey if they are to approve Sweden's NATO accession?
So I'm not going to speak with that level of specificity to either of those 2 issues. other than to say that all of the issues that Turkey raises publicly with us, you can, I think, fully expect and understand that they raise those issues privately with us, and all the things that we have said publicly about the need for them to support and our hope that they will support Sweden's accession, we say privately to them. We also say privately to them what we have said publicly, which is we have supported the provision of F-16s to Turkey for some time. We've made that clear publicly that we support it, but that there are a number of members of Congress who, as much as we don't believe the issue should be linked with NATO accession, there are members of Congress who believe that it is. And so we always make that clear privately and publicly that that is an issue that a number of members of Congress have raised.
And in terms of what else the U.S. can do to try to grease the wheel for Sweden's accession before or right after Vilnius, like what is that position like? Are you warning of any consequences if they continue to place obstacles in front of this?
I won't get into the private conversations, but we are making very clear that it's something we believe should happen in short order.
Yeah. Thanks so much. General public learned about this new Turkey's demand today, this morning. Based on your response, this did not come to your surprise, right? Because Secretary spoke with Turkish counterpart yesterday. So you were not surprised by this new demand.
I will say what I said to Matt, what I said to Jennifer, which is the same issues that they raise publicly, they often raise with us privately as well.
But when for the first time you guys have learned about it?
I'm not going to speak to that.
This new demand, how much does it complicate your efforts to line up all the ducks in the same row?
I won't make any predictions. I will just continue to state our position, which we think that at the beginning of this process, Turkey raised a number of concerns that it had with respect to Sweden. Sweden took steps to address those concerns. Sweden changed its constitution. It passed a new law. It's arrested terrorism suspects. It's prosecuting them. And we believe those concerns have been sufficient to address the concern. I'm sorry, those actions have been sufficient to address the concerns that Turkey professed. And so now we believe it's time to move to full accession for Sweden in very short order. Now, in terms of any predictions about how or when that might happen, we think it will happen, but I don't want to make any exact predictions about when it will come, other than that we believe it ought to happen in the very near future.